Now that we have the jacket base at this stage, let's focus on creating the different trim pieces of the jacket. For example, the waistband, the sleeves, and the collar. So let's start off with the waistband here. Let's take our jacket base and then duplicate it by going Control D, and it should create it afterwards. And so then I want to zero out all the location XYZ values, and then we'll adjust this manually and bring it down here. Cool. So now we want to select the faces down here. So we're going to do that by turning on wireframe. X-ray on first. We're going to go to edit mode, select these bottom faces. Then we want to inverse the selection by either doing Control I or select invert. Then you're going to press delete and then select faces. So now you're left with just the cap down here. Now we'll select these faces, extrude, extrude it upward. And then before we move forward, let's go back to object mode and rename this to jacket trim and then underscore waist. Cool. You can name it to whatever makes sense to you, but that's what I'm going to go with for now. Next thing is we kind of want to scale this a little bit more, but you'll notice that the little gizmo is down here. So we want to center it to the mesh, and we can do that by going to Object, Set Origin, and then Origin to Center of Mass Surface. So once I do that, I can scale it in a little bit. And then I can also scale the bottom part of this one to go into edit mode. Select these bottom faces, and then we can go ahead and scale it out a little bit. Cool. So now if we turn off X-ray, we can see that little lip around the waistband. Now we can do the the sleeve ends over here. We can take our sleeves. We're going to duplicate it again. First, you got to go to object mode. Duplicate the sleeve. Zero out the location XYZ. Cool. I'm going to rename it so it makes sense. I'm going to go jacket underscore trim underscore sleeves. Sweet. And so I'm going to hide the actual sleeves for now, so I can just focus on the trim here. Then I'm going to select go to edit mode, select faces. Okay, go into my X-ray, select the end, deselect the ones I don't need. Now I'm going to invert the selection, doing Control I, delete faces. Now we can extrude this out. So I'll select the faces, hit extrude, and then move these out. And then we can scale those in. And then we can also scale these faces in. Cool. Now let's actually create the lip on this thing. And so let's select these faces again. Deselect these. Now we're going to inset faces. Just give it a little bit of thickness there. and then we're going to extrude those in. There we go. Cool. So now we're going to mirror this. So first we're going to go into object mode, object, apply all transforms. We're going to go into our modifiers tab. And then if you go to search, you should have all the recent ones that you looked up. So you should see mirror, and then we can apply. And now we got the mirrored sleeve ends there. Let's also apply our transforms to our waistband here. Apply all transforms. So now everything's good to go here. Let's turn the sleeves back on. It all seems to be looking pretty good. Now let's add the collar. For that, we're going to add a cube. So go to add mesh cube. Cool. Then we will add some loops here. So go to edit mode. And then add a loop here, a loop there. I think that should be good for now. So then we're going to go into face mode, go into our X-ray, and then we're going to delete some of these faces. Yes, we still need these here. Yeah. So delete faces. Cool. Now this is something we can work with. We want to make sure we turn on symmetry. But first, let's go into object mode and move this into place. There we go. Let's scale it down a little bit. Let's see if we can turn on X-ray here. You know what? Just to have better clarity, let's hide the head. And then we should be good there. So let's go into... Actually, I think the side view is going to be better. Okay. Let's rotate this. Oh, wrong axis. Here we go. So we're like this. Move it down. Rotate it some more. There we go. Let's start kind of moving some of these verts in edit mode. Cool. I want to keep these edges still going like up and down. Don't want to overly slant them or anything like that. Cool. And let's go to the front. And these need to move forward over here. These need to move over here. These need to move over here. We're probably going to need to add more edge loops here. As you can start seeing some of these verts on the jacket base might need to be adjusted because the collar is pretty thick. But the thing is, you're never gonna get it 100% perfect, right? The perspective on in the concept, it may not be 100% correct. So our collar might not be as thick as the one in the concept, but we'll create something that kind of makes sense, right? Because we need to be able to keep this height of the shoulder where it is, so we can't really lower this part down. Um, Maybe a little bit. Go back to object mode, select our jacket base, go into edit mode, and maybe bring these down a little bit. Let's see. Bring it down just a bit. Yeah, because we need to keep this pretty rounded for the actual sleeve. So this is where you might deviate just a bit. Okay, we'll keep it where it was. Um, and then this probably needs to round out a little bit. So we'll round it out a bit. Do the same thing with the collar. So go back into object mode, switch over to our collar, uh, edit mode. Let's switch over to edge mode. Move this over. Might need to move these forward. And probably go into vertex mode. So this is just a lot of adjusting here, trying to get kind of the right look of things. Um, and then maybe we'll shift this over here. You always want to look at your different views, making sure your object looks pretty normal in all of them. I'll hide my jacket base just to see how this is looking. I want to make sure. Gonna change my orientation global just so I can move it straight up and down. Probably move this over here because I still want to create nice even spacing with this color. Same thing here. We're probably going to want to add another edge loop. Okay. Let's go on the side here and start adjusting this. Let's go in the front. See if we can make some more adjustments. Ooh, yeah, we're definitely going to have to widen that. Let me bring in the head. Yeah. Yeah, this thing is going to have to widen out. So it's a lot of back and forth, making sure your object kind of fits with all the other objects. So we definitely want to. We may want to thin out the neck as well. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're probably gonna have to do that. So let's go over to our object mode, switch over to our head, select. Let's go into edge mode. Okay. And start scaling this stuff down. Same thing here. And then same thing down here. And then honestly, I think I might want to extrude this stuff down just to make sure the neck fits fully within the jacket. So let's go into face mode, x-ray mode, select those faces, extrude it. Now we can guarantee that our faces are low enough here. Okay. Cool. Now we can keep adjusting this color. Let's go back into object mode, select our color, edit mode, and start adjusting this color a bit more. There we go. Push this back. Push this back. Push this down. Cool. Push this down. See how that looks. Okay. That's not bad. Cool. Right. See how it looks with the jacket base. We can honestly move these faces a little bit back, a little bit out, just so it fits nicely with the head. Cool. Now you'll notice that it's pretty rounded, so let's kind of add that now by adding an edge loop here. And then just rounding it out by scaling it and then moving it up. Cool. Except the front over here needs to stay pretty straight. Same thing over here. Cool. Now we can extrude that out a bit. Let me check the front again. As you can see, our stuff might be, it's going to be a little bit higher, but that should be fine. As long as we kind of create a similar look. Or we could also go back to object mode and kind of reduce the height of this part here. Select our jacket base, go into edit mode, and then reduce the height of this right here. Okay, something like that. Cool. And that should be closer. Yeah, that should be fine. So now let's add a little bit of thickness here. So go back into object mode, select our collar. Let me hide these for now. Go into edit mode, select all the faces, and then extrude this out. Let's move it up and then we'll just scale it out. Okay, we've added a little bit of thickness there. Probably will make it a little thicker. Then we can adjust some of these edge loops here. I forgot to turn on symmetry again. There we go. Now I'm just going to go around my model to make sure everything looks fine. Yes, it does. Um, I do want to kind of create a little bit more even spacing here. So I will add some loops here to kind of help this out a little bit. Um, I forgot to add them on the other side. Okay. Now we can go ahead and delete this one, and this one. So that gives me a little bit more even spacing. Then I always want to check it with my reference. And probably add some edge loops here. Actually, let's stick to the loop cut. Add it on both sides. And then we can, there we go. You always want to add an edge loop at a time, just so you're always in control and nothing looks weird. If you add too many edge loops at once, it may start getting a little bit overwhelming. Cool, just checking my spacing, trying to make sure it's as even as possible. Okay. You also want to make sure your edge loops are kind of rotated the correct way as well. Okay. Cool. So let me check it with my reference, check it with my other two objects, making sure they're all still working correctly. Yep. And let's just move these edges a little bit down. Cool. All right. That's gonna work for us. A quick note here, if you ever feel like your collar just gets a little bit out of hand, you want to re-extrude it out for a cleaner kind of look, this is how you can do it. So select your JacketTrim collar, go into edit mode, go into face mode, double tap the face close to the edge you want to kind of extend to. So double click it and it should select the entire kind of row of faces, right? If you click it closer to this side, it should go that way. If you click close to this side, it should again go this way. So double click that, delete your faces, uh, delete the outside faces. Cool. So now you have those inside faces again. You can select all of them, go to hold down on the extrude button here, extrude along normals, and then you can easily extrude it like this. And now that should give you a pretty clean extrude now with the kind of your edge loops rotated properly now.